Hi everyone, back to Evermore YouTube channel. It's Chris back with a bit of a rumour has it show, kind of a bit of a summer sales rumour summary, if you will. Trying to after 3 or 4 points, you'd be struggling. But yes, there's loads of names being linked to the club. Obviously, when there's new names linked to the club or players we haven't covered before, we always run it through the super duper stat computer. We talk about that player, we talk about how they'll fit into the team, and talk about how we think whether it'll be a good, bad, or a different sign, or whatever it may be. But there's a few names that we've already spoken about, we've already ran through the stat computer. So they have come back on the radar. So we just thought we'd do a quick video, really, just to round them up and talk a little bit about these links and see whether we think they're actually true or false, or whatever we think about it, because there's a lot of talk about these players in particular. So we'll get stuck right into this in a minute. Just before we do, a little reminder, as we always say, if you haven't already, smash subscribe. I'd love you to come and join us. We're closing on 7,000 subs. Loads of room for you here on Evermore. All free content. If you want to give a little bit back to the channel, there is a membership option down there. Click whichever one suits you best, but we'd just love to have you on board. So smash that button. So, yeah, loads of players being linked in key positions as well. I think, as I said in the last video, it's no surprise to me that ever since Dan Ashworth has left, we seem to be looking more at players, ready-made players for the now. There is a bit of a sprinkling still of young players in there as well, but I think the majority of the players that are linked are players that can really do a job right now in the first team. And there's some key positions that we need to cover. Obviously, we've talked about number 6 at length. We've talked about Fabian Schär's replacement. But I think the main player that we really need to get sorted is a centre forward. Callum Wilson has been knackered the entire season. Callum's got an unbelievable strike rate for us. He's practically 1 and 2, I think, when he plays. And we need to replace him with a player of equal quality, or maybe even better, buy better, as Keegan always said. Alexander Isak looks like he's our main man, but he's also got his own injury problems. So there is a lot of players out there. You're talking about likes of Vlahovic, likes of Victor Osimhen at Napoli. They're going to cost you, 70, 80, 100 plus million quid for those two players. Because they're kind of big Hollywood type names. They're players that are constantly been linked to loads of other clubs. But there is a player in the Premier League who's scoring a lot of goals. He's a 1 and 2 striker. He's barely played this season for a reason, which we'll cover in a minute, which you know what I'm talking about. And I'm talking about this fella right here, Ivan Toney. Ivan Toney, once of Newcastle United, if people forgot, there he is. What a young man he was there. Look at holding up the wongest shirt. My word, Ivan, that was the wrongest shirt ever, wasn't it, really, for the sponsor? But yeah, Ivan Toney was at Newcastle United once upon a time. Obviously, he's a young kid. We signed him. He was from Peterborough, and just didn't quite work out for him, really. And then obviously he went off and forged the path, and he's ended up at Brentford. He's become an unbelievable centre forward for Brentford. He really, really has. But Newcastle have been credited with a link to this player. Now, Arsenal have always been linked to this footballer. And when you look at Arsenal play, the one thing they're missing is a real number 9, somebody to link up the play, somebody who can be a nuisance in the box, and somebody who can get goals. And Ivan Toney ticks all those boxes. He really, really does. But, Arsenal and Chelsea are interested in the player. Now, if you didn't know already, Ivan Toney has obviously been suspended because of his betting off the pitch. Sound familiar? Yes, he wouldn't be alone in our dressing room, would he, to be fair? But yeah, so he's been banned for kind of most of the season, really. And he's only just come back from suspension not too long ago. But in all fairness, the stats he's got are incredible. Since he's come back, he's never missed a beat. In 8 games, he's got 4 goals already. So again, he's a 1-2 striker. But I mean, looking at the player himself, he's probably going to cost you about thick end of maybe 50, 60 million quid. He's destined to leave Brentford. There's no doubt about that. 27 years old, he's at the peak of his powers. Now is his time. Now is his time to step up and go to another bigger club, so to speak. Now, does Ivan Toney fancy this move? I don't know. That's the question. I mean, before we even talk about whether we want Ivan Toney, does Ivan Toney want Newcastle? He seems like he had unfinished business at Newcastle. He's quite a prickly character, as Ivan Toney. Centre forwards can be a little bit like that. To be fair, they can be dicks. I know everyone says the no dickhead policy. Friend of the channel, PK, says that all the time. But strikers are dicks, really. They're selfish. They're full of themselves. They're arrogant. But that's what makes them good. And Ivan Toney's a very, very good player. But there's 2 sides of Ivan Toney. There's the player and his qualities, which are second to none. Would I have him in the number 9 shirt ahead of Callum Wilson next season? 100% I would do. In terms of his footballing ability, but his attitude is questionable. There's been a lot of things that have happened to Ivan Toney since he's went to Brentford, not just being a goal machine and, and being on the cusp of the England team and all this other stuff, and, being linked to big football clubs for multi-million-pound moves. He's also been a bit of a wild card, I think. He's obviously, the betting scandal was the big thing. But even, the footage of him being on holiday saying, fuck Brentford to these girls and all this stuff. And I just don't know whether that kind of a character is the right thing for the dressing room, regardless of his ability as a footballer. Alexander Mitrovic is a good example. As a proper striker. I mean, to be honest with you, I'd have Mitro back from Saudi tomorrow to come back into our squad. I think he's matured as a player. I think he's a proper battle ram number 9 who can get goals, can link up the play really well, very much like Toney. Yes, he's a bit of a nutcase on the pitch and gets red cards and stuff like that, or used to. But you don't see much bother for Mitro off the pitch. So maybe Mitro could be another name to throw in there. But as much as I like Ivan Toney as a player, I'm just not sure he's the right character for the football club. We've got a lot of opinions on the short video that we did and asked that question on Toon Talk, and a lot of people said the same thing. His attitude isn't quite right, and for me, that would be my worry, that he would throw off the balance and in the unity of the squad. You see the lads when they're doing the video. Isaac Willick the other day said how close we are as a group. And I just don't know whether Toney would upset the apple cart there. And there's other strikers that we can maybe get who would slip in more perfectly into that role. You might have to drop a bit more money on it, but someone like a Vlahovic or an Osman, maybe they could fit into the group a little bit better. But the difference between, I think, those two players, definitely Osman, they want to be the main man. They wouldn't want to play second fiddle to Alexander Isak, and neither would Ivan Toney, I don't think. But Ivan Toney's not quite at that level, I think, as those other two. So potentially he could be a good signing. But we are going to be linked to him, and we're going to be linked to everybody, really. But let us know in the comments below, guys, about Ivan Toney, whether you guys would be interested in him or not. Another key position, if you look at the injury to Nick Pope, has been a goalkeeper. And we should have probably signed a goalkeeper. People are talking about goalkeepers who can use their feet. And there's a player that's been linked to us perpetually, before, and the scouts have been out to see him. And it's this lad here. And he is a Georgie. Trying to remember how to spell his name here. If you bear with this, we've got him on the stats actually. So yeah, it's Georgie Mamardashvili. Beg your pardon, get my teeth in right there. Mark's better at pronouncing these than me. Yeah, Georgie Mamardashvili. So he plays for Valencia. He's the Georgian international goalkeeper, an absolute monster of a goalkeeper. I've actually got a stat comparison slide for him in terms of Nick Pope. We've done this before, but Mark's just updated there. So he's 23 years old. A huge goalkeeper. He's well over 6'3", 6'4", I think. Great with his feet as well. Comes out fast and good control. You can see in terms of the areas that he kind of beats Pope on there in terms of his average passing length. His crosses stopped. His post shot stopping as well, and his goals saved. He is a very, very good goalkeeper in terms of his kind of agility as well as his ability to use his feet, and the way the goalkeepers are evolving. I think Mamardashvili could very well be somebody that we're looking at. Now, I don't know whether he'd come in as a number 1 or he'd come in as a number 2 and then maybe challenge Pope for that shirt, with him only being 23. He's maybe not expecting to have that shirt straight away. But I think with Dubravka this season, he showed he's a good shot stopper, but other areas of his game, he's maybe struggling a bit. But also with Dubravka, I think the last few months and some of the shot stopping that he's pulled off has probably put him in the shop window in terms of people saying, do you know what, that's a good goalkeeper who could be a number 1 for me. And obviously Loris Karius as well is talking about moving, I think, back to Italy, possibly because his partner's over in Italy as well. So I think there will be some changes in the goalkeeping stakes. Gillespie seems like a great lad, but doesn't play any football. So I don't know whether Gillespie will be moving on, maybe go to a lower league team or something like that. Who knows? But I think there is going to be some movement in the goalkeeping stakes. And that'll be something that, we're going to have to keep an eye on, I think, in the summer, whether we replace Pope or whether we just get somebody to challenge him like Mamardashvili. And it will be very, very interesting. Let us know in the comments below, guys, what you think about the goalkeeper. I mean, we've missed Pope, I think, 100%, his ability to come out and sweep a keeper. I think the back four just looks steadier with Nick Pope there. Dubravka's done quite well, I think, like I said, in the last few games. He's got his fitness back. And, without him, we would have been out of the FA Cup 100%. So we've got to give him thanks for that. But I do think Dubravka will be away in the summer. But Nick Pope should be hopefully back, I think, within the next maybe 4 to 6 weeks. Whether he gets straight back to the team or not remains to be seen. But yeah, the goalkeeping situation, I think, will definitely be up for grabs in the summer, especially if we qualify for Europe. There'll be more football again, and we'll have to have a better squad to manage that situation. So in terms of other players as well, in terms of maybe the youth academy too. So I think we are still trying to look to increase the squad depth, not just the first team squad, but also the young players coming in. We've had real good success with some young players. Obviously Minter's doing an unbelievable job of finding. He may very well come back in the summer and be part of the squad. He may very well come back and go back out on loan potentially. Got Harris Nashby, obviously at Swansea, been a little bit up and down. I think he's had some injuries, but he's putting some really good performances from them. We've got young Alfie Harrison that was signed from Man City. I don't know whether he'll be loaned out or something potentially. You don't know. Maybe even Lewis Hall might get loaned out. We just don't know, especially with these links to the likes of Zinchenko and people like that. But there is another player that we have been linked to, according to the Chronicle. Now, it's quite interesting, this one. So his name is Mario Dorgeles, who is this lad here. And he plays in the Danish league for a team called, is it Norge Helland? Pardon my pronunciation, Danish viewers watching, if that isn't right. But yeah, he's also got the same agent as Garang Kwal, which is quite interesting. And he is a wonder kid. He's only played, I think, 20 odd games or something so far in his career, and he's already got a goal. Yeah, he looks to have a great bit of quality about him as well. Big, strong, has a real good touch, ability to link up the play, a great range of passing already, can get a tackle in as well. I think everybody who's anybody is looking for the next Yaya Toure. He's an Ivory Coast player. Everyone's looking for that next, Yaya Toure or N'Golo Kante, and a lot more teams that are more savvy and switched on to these types of things now. And I think this lad is obviously somebody that we've identified through the season. We've had some really good young players picked out, and I think that kind of development squad is really growing now. There's some good players in there that maybe in the next 2, 3, 4 years can break into the first team. And obviously, we've seen Louis Miley do it this season. We've known about Louis Miley for a long time. He's a local lad, but I think that youth team academy got battered by Chelsea the other day, and I just think that it needs more development, not just homegrown players, from the northeast and northwest and London, but also from far afield as well. And this kid could be a really good sign if we get him in. Arsenal and Chelsea are also interested, so that tells you that the lad has a little bit of ability. So that's one to watch, in terms of that development squad. We seem to be able to entice these youngsters in. You look at someone like Dortmund, who's done it so well for so long. If we can follow that blueprint, we can end up with some real superstars on our books in the next 2, 3, or 4 years. So a very interesting one to watch. He's only 19, so he could be a real star of the future. And going back to the Premier League, and going back to kind of tried and tested, it wouldn't be a Newcastle transfer rumour without being linked to some Bournemouth player. So we'll throw one in for the giggles, so that's a bit disrespectful. This is Lloyd Kelly. So Lloyd Kelly has been linked to Newcastle for ages. It's a player that Eddie Howe really likes, a player that Eddie Howe is very, very interested in. Now Lloyd Kelly's only 25 years old, plays centre-back, but he's left-footed. He can fit in left-back as well. And a really good player. He's big, he's quick, he's good on the ball as well. So he's played 14 times in the Premier League for Bournemouth this season. He's not looked out of place. He looks a good player. There's other teams that are linked to him as well, very interested in him. But the fact that he has that ability to play a left centre back or left back could mean he's good cover for Botman. He's good cover for Burn. And I think he's going to be a free transfer in the summer as well. So this wouldn't surprise me if Newcastle United do make a move for that. And that's a smart signing, really, when you think about it. I know we were linked to Philip Billing as well. I think that was when the worry that Joe Linton wasn't going to sign his new contract was there. The Joe Linton contract rumours seem to be getting stronger and stronger about Joe staying at the club, and that is massive. That's paramount. He's such a key player for Newcastle United for now and for the future. And if Joe Linton stays, there's no reason to sign a Phil Billing. And if they're going out and sniffing around, young players like Dorgeles who can maybe fill in as that big, strong powerhouse midfielder who can learn from Joe Linton, then potentially they don't need to go sign to Philip Billing. But Lloyd Kelly on a free at 20, 25, 26 years old, that is not a bad bit of business in my book. So that's very shrewd FFP type signing. So that could be one, I think, Newcastle would maybe get over the line, and with them being a free agent, they could probably do a lot of that, tie it up way before the season ends and get that in as one of the early signings of the transfer window. But that's just a quick roundup, guys, of some of the names that we've already covered before. So there's no point in us doing separate rumour hazard videos on them because we've already done it. Just a little bit of an update. So let us know what you think about this kind of video. We'll do this before. If any more repeat targets come out, we'll throw them back in. We'll just give you a little bit of an update and a little bit of a refresh about it. We always like to do that. And if you like what you see, smash subscribe, come and join us. We'd love to have you as part of it for more. It's all free content, but you can't be a member down there. If you want to click that button and help support the channel, have a cracking day wherever you are. These rumours are going to be massive over the summer. So me and Mark will do our best to cover as many of them as we can for you. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you there. Cheers.